Hello, welcome to the series of lecture which deals with the subject of Christian ethics. I am Belsi Isaac, your instructor, and I have done specialization in the field of religion and philosophy. So let's delve into the subject. What is ethics? That's my first question, which can be answered simply. Ethics deals with the question of what is morally right and what is morally wrong. In other words, ethics differentiates between right and wrong. There are three terms that are used in the field of ethics. Number one is ethics, second is moral, number three is morality. These words are often used interchangeably. So let's explain them as follows. When I say I acted morally or ethically, I'm trying to say that I have done action in accordance with an accepted rules of conduct or behavior. Here we need to differentiate between moral statement and non-moral statement, or ethical statement or non-ethical statement. Let me give you an example. Kapil ate Rohan's lunch is not a moral statement, but Kapil should not have eaten Rohan's lunch is a moral statement. And therefore, in responding to the moral statement, Kapil should not have eaten Rohan's lunch. If I respond, no, Kapil ate Rohan's lunch because he gave it to him, I am making a moral statement with positive justification. But if I say, no, Kapil has not eaten Rohan's lunch, I am making a moral statement with negative justification in regard with the given question. But when I say I am moral or I am ethical, what I'm trying to say is I have a set of beliefs about right and wrong. But when I say I am doing moral or ethical thinking, I'm trying to say that I am trying to think and reflect on the meanings of terms such as good, bad, and ought. Or I'm trying to say, how should I decide what words, actions, or behavior is appropriate for a given situation. But many times these words are used as nouns. In such usage, we can define morals as follows. Moral is an individual code of behavior based on religious or philosophical systems. Morals define right and wrong based on an individual's choice of belief system. Ethics is a branch of study which studies topics such as what are the source of moral norms, or how to decide what norm constitutes good or what norm constitutes bad. In other words, morals are the rules that we obey, whether they are created by ourselves or the scripture or philosophical systems. But ethics deals with the why we have those rules, or our understanding of the principles that underlies or undergirds those rules. So what is morality? It can be defined in two ways. So first definition I want to give, which comes from normative definition. It refers to a code of conduct that given specified condition would be put forward by all rational persons. Descriptively, it refers to a certain code of conduct put forward by a society or a group, such as religion, or accepted by an individual for her own behavior. In ethics, there are two kinds of language that we use. The first kind is descriptive language. Look at the statement, Kapil beat Rohan badly. It's a descriptive statement. It tells you what has happened, but it does not make any judgment whether the action was right or the action was wrong. Second language is prescriptive language. The statement that Kapil should not have beaten Rohan badly is a prescriptive statement because it tells you that the action was wrong. But the person Making the second statement or the prescriptive statement is using a standard of referral whereby he judges and declares that the couple's action of beating Rohan was wrong. In other words, he is using a normative rule to declare that the couple's action is not according to the normative standard and therefore it is wrong. There are three levels of ethics. Number one is meta-ethics. Meta-ethics tries to do two things. Meta-ethics investigates where our ethical principles come from or what they mean. Are they merely social inventions? Do they involve more than expressions of our individual emotions? That's the first thing that meta-ethics does. Number two, meta-ethics tries to analyze the meaning of ethical terms and concepts such as what is right, what is wrong, how do you define good, how do you define bad, what ought to be done, etc. Number two is normative ethics. Normative ethics takes on a more practical task, which is to arrive at moral standards that regulate right and wrong. This may involve articulating the good habits that we should acquire, the duties that we should follow, or the consequences of our behavior on others. Number third is applied ethics. Finally, applied ethics involves examining specific controversial issues such as abortion, infanticide, animal rights, environmental concerns, homosexuality, capital punishment, nuclear war, so on and so forth. Let's look at meta-ethics for a while. According to Richard Garner and Bernard Rosen, there are three kinds of meta-ethical problems or three kinds of meta-ethical questions. Number one is moral semantics. Moral semantics. What is the meaning of moral terms or judgments? It asks about the meaning of such words as good, bad, right, wrong, ought, etc. So, these can be divided into two groups. Moral semantics can be divided into two groups. Number one is cognitivist. Cognition means the mental action or process of acquiring knowledge and understanding. Ethicists who follow this category state that moral statements are statements of judgment which can be proven to be either wrong or right. For example, stealing is wrong is a statement of judgment. Either you can agree with it or you can disagree with it. For example, if I follow a cognitivist theory and I say stealing is wrong, I am making a statement that is true. And therefore, I believe that the statement stealing is wrong is part of my knowledge and my judgment. It means that whenever I see an act which I define as stealing, I will be passing on the judgment that it is wrong. The second group of moral semantics is non-cognitivist. The people who are non-cognitivist will say that stealing is wrong is not a statement of judgment. They will say stealing is wrong is a meaningful statement, but it does not add knowledge of a person. So imagine, I am a non-cognitivist, and therefore when I say that stealing is wrong, I am simply stating my state of emotion or I am expressing my emotions. In other words, I am saying I don't like stealing. Moreover, the statement stealing is wrong according to a non-cognitivist is neither true or false. Second is moral ontology. What is the nature of moral judgment? It asks the question of whether moral judgments are universal or relative, whether it is of one kind or other kind. There are three divisions of moral ontology. Number one is universalist. Universalists are those people who hold that the same moral facts or principles apply to everyone, everywhere. It means, for a universalist, stealing is wrong whether it was in past century, last century, or today's time. Number two is relativist. Relativist maintains that all moral judgments have their origin either in society or in individual standards, and that no single standard exists by which one can objectively assess the truth of a moral decision. In other words, stealing is not wrong at all times. It can be right also in certain context or in certain society. Number third is nihilism. Nihilism maintains that there is no action or behavior that is intrinsically morally right or morally wrong. In other words, no action is either wrong or right by itself. So, stealing is neither wrong or right in itself. Number third is moral epistemology. Moral epistemology asks the question, how do we know a certain action is right or wrong? Or secondly, ask the question, is it even possible to have a moral knowledge? If we study further moral epistemology, we can divide this group of people in three categories. Number first is empiricism. It's a theory that believes that all ideas and concepts are based on experience, and therefore the knowledge must be obtained by analyzing the experiences. Empiricist argues that all moral decisions are based on experiences. Number two are rationalist. Rationalism is a theory that believes moral truths, at least general moral principles, are known by reason alone. In the history of ethics, one of the best examples of moral rationalism was German philosopher Immanuel Kant, who espoused a theory called categorical imperative. Because categorical imperative theory is very important, I want to spend some time here. Immanuel Kant made a distinction between categorical imperatives and hypothetical imperatives. Let me explain it further. A hypothetical imperative is one that we must obey if we want to satisfy our desire. For example, go to the doctor is a hypothetical imperative because we are only obliged to obey it if we want to get well. If you don't want to get well, you don't have to go to a doctor. So it's a hypothetical imperative. But a categorical imperative binds us regardless of our desires. Everyone has a duty not to lie, regardless of circumstances or even whether it is in our interest or not. These imperatives are morally binding because they are based on reason rather than contingent facts. Unlike hypothetical imperatives, which bind us insofar we are part of a group or a society which we owe our duties to, we cannot opt out of categorical imperatives because we cannot opt out of being a rational agents. We owe a duty to rationality by virtue of being rational agents. Therefore, rational moral principles apply to all moral agents at all times. Number three is intuitionism. This refers to the more philosophical belief that there are objective moral truths in life and that human beings can understand this truth intuitively. In other words, what is right or wrong is considered by ethical intuitionists to be self-evident in nature and cannot be known through human experiences. Famed ethicist G.E. Moore said in his book Principia Ethica. Let me quote. If I am asked what is good, my answer is that good is good, and that is end of the matter. Or if I am asked how is good to be defined, my answer is it cannot be defined, and that is all I have to say about it. But disappointing as this answer may appear, they are of the very last importance. My point is that good is a simple notion, just as yellow is a simple notion. That just as you cannot by any manner of means explain to anyone who does not already know it what yellow is, so you cannot explain what good is. Unquote.